Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Content Corner. My name is M Sushi. It's a wonderful day in the corner. It really is. Sun is shining, and we got five other people here. Some are new, some are returners. So I'd like to welcome back Flarebear and Blue Eye.
I'll be right back.
Wait, no. you
There you go.
you were supposed to come back, not like be right back.
He's going back to sleep.
Wow.
Anyways,
Yeah,
how are you doing, Blue Eye?
I'm doing all right. Just choked away a true ending run.
Yeah,
you know,
I've noticed
just the
you've been
usual.
running True Ending. How's that going?
Pretty decently. My first run had some 24-minute farewell. So yeah, that's that had to be fixed, obviously.
Yikes.
So went in a few weeks of IL grinding, got a 17, and now I'm trying to get sub 55.
It's a good goal to set. How are you? For those who are unaware, True Ending is this last category where you beat Farewell from a new file, and I know a lot of people. It's kind of like budget any percent, like a slightly longer any percent, because you're basically playing through all the A sides and just getting some hearts. How are you enjoying the category so far, like in comparison to any percent?
It's also my excuse to keep any percent up to date while not doing any percent.
True ending is the most true metric of Celeste skill.
It's true.
That's a weird
There's only-
champ.
The only downside is that I have to do 6B, but other than that.
How is that a downside? What do you mean? Best
I mean,
chapter.
it's a
Changed my mind.
But at the same
Anyways,
time, it's a good segue into getting 6B in your any percent.
that's
eventually.
true. It's actually interesting when you look at all the top runners who are now doing 6B. Everyone with the exception of TGH and Aurora, or even TGH probably played it for ARB, but they're just Aurora
Yeah.
actually is the only person who learned it solely for any percent. Everyone else kind of integrated it through other categories, which is interesting. Anyways, enough about Brady being AFK and Blue Eye running True Ending.
Yo, that was the fastest bathroom
Okay.
break I've ever taken. That's how we do it on the
That's a new
Content
PB?
Corner.
Okay, 1 minute before I go live, I'm like, is everyone ready? Do everyone have water? Everyone use the bathroom? And everyone's like, yep. And then, Chocolate Orange and Bro were like, oh, wait, hold on, give me a minute. So I wait a minute. And it's the second we go live, Brady's like, bathroom time, baby.
That's my cue. Let's go.
That's my cue. Anyways, coming in for episode 2, we have Chocolate Orange. How are you doing, dude?
Hello. I am a chocolate orange. You'll hear people call me Aqua because it's easier. But yeah, I'm doing well. How are you, M Sushi? I don't think anyone's asked you that yet.
Oh, wow, how courteous. I just
Because we don't care.
Oh, my God.
Oh wow.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. Alright, stream's over, guys. You can find another channel. No, but I just got 3 seconds off my any percent PB today, so I'm gonna do some salty run backs tonight. And
Nutty.
yeah, nutty, insane.
No.
Alright, before we do some more specific introductions, I'd also like to introduce Programmatic. How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing good.
Man, the myth, the legend, the tutorial man. Nice to see you. And speaking of talent, we got Pastillion Box.
Pastillion.
Bastillion.
Pastillion.
Yeah,
Still
I mean, talent might be a bit overrated, but it's appreciated anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm
Pet
pretty good.
silent
It's all
box.
good. That's me. That's silent box.
You know, English might be my first language, but it's definitely not my best language.
What is your best language then?
Yeah, on that note.
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, I took Spanish in high school. I probably have 6 different Duolingo accounts that have 1% in a ton of different languages. I know I tried to learn Swedish. I tried to learn Korean.
Sweet.
Those
How
are the
far did you
only.
get with Swedish? I'm intrigued
Oh.
now.
C# is my best language.
I mean, oh, that's funny. Programming. No, I remember I did it straight for I did it every day for a month, and then I just didn't. I actually don't remember. All I
Sorry,
remember
that's
is milk, which is MJ and the accented O LK. That means milk. Thank you.
Who would have
No.
guessed?
I was gonna be
So-
really
so-
mad if that didn't mean
so
milk,
basically-
honestly. I was gonna be
Basically, because
angry.
your standard high school French. It's like you just you took it for I took it for like 3 years. Yeah, do you remember anything? No.
Nope.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, it
Je n'ai pas
it
le-
definitely do be like that. One thing that is good, if you do take stuff like that in high school, if you do try to learn it again later, in my experience, you remember enough of it, so like getting back like up to speed doesn't take nearly as long. So I
That's
did that with
probably
Spanish.
pretty
I'm
true,
trying to relearn
yeah.
it, and I'm actually trying to learn it now, and it took a lot less time than it did in high school. So that's pretty cool.
Dude, you know when you take Spanish all throughout middle school and high school, and then you're gonna have a trip to France in like a week and a half, but you don't know any French at all? Like,
So you're
damn,
just gonna be like,
that's gonna be awkward. Anyways, I want to get back on track with these 3 new guests here because I mean I'm sure they're not like brand new only for this episode to stay. I'm sure we'll see them many more times, but they missed
no,
out.
I'm totally leaving CF
Yeah.
entirely after
it's
this.
a one
Sorry,
time
guys.
I like it.
Prague has a one-way ticket down to
it's
like
CC.
Loserville after this one because this is the cool kids club.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
But yeah, they missed some introduction times. In the last episode, we talked a lot about. By the way, you can see our last episode. Type !CC YouTube in the chat if you're not up to date. But we talked about introductions and how we found Celeste and how we kind of
General
So-
background.
how we found appeal in Celeste because
At the
Celeste.
very least, so that you can get used to hearing their voices and know who they are.
This is true. So I want to go in the reverse order of what's on screen here, and I want to start with Pest. Just want to ask, how'd you find Celeste and this whole friend group to begin with?
Oh my gosh. All right, so definitely from the beginning, I was like learning Hollow Knight, having a great time. When out of nowhere comes this man, this beautiful man, Timothy Sinkus, Time Sink himself.
Oh,
Then he started coming up in the community. We started vibing together. A little bit of a rivals. We were getting good at the same times. All of a sudden, got a 34 in Hollow Knight. Then he was like, I'm out. I'm gonna go play this game called Celeste. I'd heard of it, here and there. Honestly, the first time I heard it was from people talking about Bye-Bye, who I also first heard about from Hollow Knight. So yeah, heard about that from him. Looked at it a little bit. Was like, that game doesn't look very fun. I'm just gonna continue playing Hollow Knight. Psh, lame game. But then yeah, Timesync started playing that, and I just started watching him stream because he was my friend. I saw him do that a bunch, and I saw him just grinding stuff, getting really good. And then yeah, basically once I got tired of Hollow Knight, I just started looking for other stuff to play and talking to Timesync and stuff. Just played it casually. Thought it was honestly a little bit underwhelming the first time I played it casually. Then I learned I learned how supers work. Played through it again casually, knowing how supers work and wall bounces, and suddenly started just having a ton more fun. And from there, I don't know. I just started wanting to get better and better. The game's addicting as hell, but
it's just I if
Just
I
started
heard that right, you
casually,
said
and then, yeah.
you said you thought the initial playthrough casually was underwhelming.
oh yeah, I was
Really?
unimpressed.
Huh?
I was unimpressed.
Wow.
Like, it definitely wasn't bad. I thought the music was great. The story was, it was definitely solid. It got me engaged, but it really didn't start picking up until I learned like supers. Honestly, that was about it. Supers and like the very basics of reverses. And then as soon as I started getting more and more options, I started getting more and more into the game. So
As a person who got into it the same way, I feel like if you go into playing Celeste from the recommendation of speed friends, like people that have started running this game and saying that the movement is really fun, you can easily go into the game with high expectations. And like that can cause you to rush your playthrough because deep down your real intent is to just beat it so you can speedrun. And also it just gives you high expectations for the game in general. I feel like that kind of almost happened to me, but I was aware of it and tried to avoid it. But I feel like that could definitely happen.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially if they come in with they set these high bars, and then you just play it casually without knowing that they do all these advanced movement things, and you're sitting there like, is this it? Is this really what they were so hyped about, guys? Come on now.
yeah.
So I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it was a lot of that, and then I just started casually speedrunning. It was honestly a lot of fun, just not caring a ton. I remember getting really excited about getting sub hour, sub 50, sub 40, and I just remembered at that time I was watching Bye-Bye do ARB and Timesync do 90%. And I was like, man, these guys are so good. How do they do anything like that? And they're like, just practice stuff individually. And I was like, lame, never gonna do that. Fast forward a month, And yeah, started to do that. And then as soon as I started like grinding out ILs, just looking to improve it level by level, by then I was hooked. And after that, yeah, I just started slowly pushing my time down and like actually practicing. Got like a 35 and then a 34. Then I think at that point I'd started hanging around in Oddbod's stream and like started hanging around with I think Jackson fell. I think I started talking with them about that time, and then yeah, once I got like I think a high 34, y'all were like, hey, come on in. So
The toxic brotherhood.
yeah, basically.
How did you
Your
think?
time's low enough. You've earned it.
Yeah, basically.
How did you think Hollow Knight compares to Celeste?
I mean, it all just depends on what you want to get out of the game. If you're looking for a speed game, Celeste blows it out of the water. I think casually, Hollow Knight is pristine. Not a lot's gonna beat it, but if you like Metroidvanias, definitely top tier. But I mean, honestly, in terms of just like longevity, playtime, the two are just so drastically different, but they're both just honestly incredible games. I think as I am right now, I definitely prefer Celeste just because where I am in my life, I don't have time to sit down and practice stuff for Hollow Knight, which generally takes a lot longer than just going through practicing stuff for, Celeste. But the two are just honestly really just great games. I can't say that one is better than the other.
I mean, I still every time I hear Hollow Knight, I have not played the game casually yet, so that's like still something I need to do. It's like games I've bought but I've never played are like Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley, like games that literally everyone who plays them, they're like, this game is so good, and I actually probably had like 2 minutes in the game on Steam or something. Like it's just, yeah.
Tess, I feel like your perspective is kind of boosted by the fact that like you probably have a lot more effort into what you do in Hollow Knight versus compared to Celeste. Like if you were coming in the other way around where like you had like a 27-25 in Celeste, and then like a 35 or 36 in Hollow Knight, then it would be easier for you to sit down and like improve in Hollow Knight. Cause because your Hollow Knight time is like 10 seconds off record or something.
Yeah, 13 right now.
Oh well. Gamer.
But yeah. I'll get it back eventually. Just give me like a year. It's fine.
Just a small couple of days, maybe a month. Actually, a year. We'll go with a year.
Just a year.
Game's hard. I don't know.
All right, I'll go over to you, Prague. I want to ask a similar question. How'd you find Celeste in this whole friend group?
So I mean, I was always a big fan of platformers. It's always been my favorite genre of games, and I always like whenever I play a game, I always want to just find as many ways as possible to keep playing that game if I really like it. So like I'll play a game that's like 6 hours long and then find a way to play it for like 30 hours. And with Celeste, like I did 100%, did all the C-sides, B-sides, got a few Goldens, and then eventually got to the point where I was like, Goldens aren't going to be fun for the rest of the chapters, but I don't want to stop playing Celeste, so I speedrun it, basically. Like, this game's too fun, so I need to find more ways to play it.
So you're generally on the market for platformers, I see.
Yeah.
What other platformers have you dipped your toes in before Celeste?
Well, my second favorite game ever is Hollow Knight, so...
Oh, wow. I'm getting
I'm
some
also
deja
a big fan of, like, Ori and the Blind Forest, Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
Good taste.
Meanwhile, I play a hat in
yeah.
time.
Honestly, I just hate platformers. Gonna be honest. Just gonna throw that out there.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
If you hate platformers, you might hate this game called I think it's called Portal.
Portal, yeah, puzzle
Yeah,
platform.
I absolutely despise 3D puzzle shooters. Like that's the worst genre of games ever.
3D puzzle shooter platformers.
Best of. I was gonna say best of both worlds, but that's more than two. Best of all the worlds, honestly.
Name another 3D puzzle platformer shooter that isn't Portal.
Portal 2.
Portal 2. All right. Own liberals. Sit down.
What about Narbacular Drop?
I guess so.
Oh yeah.
Talos
I don't know.
Principle. Yeah, that's
That's
actually a good
the-
one.
that's
Oh
the-
yeah,
Yeah,
Sushi, what about that one game you showed me at Pace that just ripped off Portal?
Oh wait, which game?
It was some game that you showed me a page.
Oh, was it Quantum Conundrum?
Yes.
That's actually true.
None.
Anyways, last but not least, we have a chocolate orange. Welcome to the corner.
Hello. I would argue that I am the least here because,
I don't
in
know about that
terms
one.
of like how I got here. I mean, I heard about Celeste when it first came out because there was a lot of buzz around it, but I never got around to playing it because in 2018 I had basically stopped playing games for a while because that was just when I was starting college. And it was only last year that I started getting back into gaming, and just about 6 months ago is when Celeste was free on the Epic Games Store, and so why not, right? And so I picked it up, and it was just way more than I was expecting. I thought the story was amazing, the gameplay was amazing, and once I had finished, it was like that wasn't enough for me. So I started sort of getting into this community just by trolling Twitch streams and browsing the Celeste category, and then I met a bunch of people that are in this group and just befriended them by being a stream monster, I guess.
Nice.
But yeah,
don't know.
we all talked to him before any of us actually knew who he was.
Yeah.
Be the true lurker.
I still don't really run this game, mainly because my laptop died a few months ago, and I still haven't gotten around to repairing it. But guess that's a thing.
He's just too scared to drop his
I'm
26
not gonna
out.
lie.
Yeah.
The world isn't ready.
I am the Twitch lurker. Yeah, exactly right.
It's a strong title to have, but he wears it well.
We thought it might help to have a non-speedrunner in the speedrun podcast.
Yeah, I'm basically the resident ignoramus. I'm here to be a Twitch chat representative.
But you haven't said Kappa yet. What is this?
Sorry.
When was the last time? I have not seen that emote in years, dude. That emote's
Kappa,
dead.
yeah.
I know.
Its time has passed.
Yep. It's
Can I get a
always
frog
now.
champ?
Dude, honestly, yeah, Kappa's dead. Frog Champ is where it's at.
Okay, because it's like the progression of emotes. It's like become more and more inside jokes. Because at least like Kappa was kind of dumb, but you can see it's a face that expresses an emotion. When I realize now that like Omega Lol and like Pog are some of the most popular emotes, and it's like unless you know what it is, it's like incomprehensible what it is. Like Dirty Twitch Confession is when Omega Lol first started becoming popular, I thought it was just a really weird ring. Like, I thought it was a white, like a skin color ring with a big hole in the center. And I'm like, why is everyone spamming this? Why? Because I didn't know LOL was an emote to begin with. So I was like, what?
Okay.
What does it mean?
What is Omega Lol?
And like,
that's amazing.
Pog is just a zoomed in picture of someone's lips. Like, what?
Pog is zoomed in Pog champ, dude.
I mean, yeah, it is, but like, realistically, it's just someone's lips and a nostril. Like, what does it mean?
Sushi, you're ruining this emote for me. I've never looked at it this closely before. Oh my gosh.
Like, I love
incredible.
using it too. It's funny, it's humorous, it's witty, it's quirky, right? But like, realistically, if you like just, like, hypothetically, like, right, like, because I'm 18 and I do Twitch streaming, so I like have to explain to my parents a lot, like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm Twitch live streaming, and like, if I ever have to explain to my parents, like, what the heck a Pog is, I'm like, oh my god.
It's a way to express excitement and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Just
a
like,
shorter
please don't ask
version
any
of
more questions.
When you
Let's
get
just be real.
grounded, do you say this isn't very Pog?
Oh my gosh.
I love the idea of like using like Twitch emotes as like legitimate words or like slang and like very very important moments of your life.
Wait, isn't that the mystery dungeon thing again with Bidoof? There's like a comic for those who've played Explorers of Time, Darkness, or Sky.
And if you haven't,
The
you
game.
should go do it now.
And if you haven't, you should. Honestly, it's like best mystery dungeon game ever. Best spin-off game of Pokemon ever, in my opinion. But there's a moment in the story where you go on an expedition, and people of the guild are being selected to go to that expedition. And Bidoof, the quote unquote least of the group, gets selected as first pick to go for this expedition. And so there's this comic where Bidoof says, "Really? That's pretty poggers." And right after, Justin, the leader immediately says, "And Bidoof is off the expedition, guys."
That's amazing.
I always see like the same tweet recycled in my Twitter timeline, which is like, just sent a guy nudes and he replied with poggers or like something like that. Like, it's a disease, really.
It kind of is.
I found it. There.
I'm excited.
That's pretty poggers. So yeah, but I feel like pog is just easier to say, so that stuck.
No, like I totally get the inside joke behind the culture, but it's just like PogChamp is actually a really good emote. Like it's such a good face. It's very clear
It's
that
so
it's a hype emote. But Pog is just like this is like
sushi noises.
yes, this is like the whole meme about like how like nowadays humor is just like making stuff obscenely
Inside.
stupid. Inside jokes, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, it kind of is.
Or Peppa the Frog. Just pick one.
I am an
true.
American teenager, so obviously I use TikTok, and there was like one meme where it was just
Oh my.
it was just like a frog that went through like a blue scale, and then it just said arson, and that's it. Like that was the joke.
I mean, I could write a whole essay about this, but I think there's definitely like a semblance of surrealism and absurdism, as well
Yeah.
as like post-irony going on with a lot of internet culture these days.
You know, like,
Which
as
is
much as much as I want to meme on it, there's these like there's the memes about the memes where like in 1,000 years people are gonna be like digging up the past and they're gonna see a meme and be like, what the fuck is this? What does this mean? Because they just won't know if they don't have the knowledge and the context. They're just gonna be like, it's just a fucking mouth. What is this? And it's just like I don't.
Well, if we
know how to
assume
explain
that the
it.
internet
It's just
still
incredible.
exists, like we've made a lot of progress in being able to document things because it doesn't all have to be written down, right? Things
Like,
are
that's
preserved.
true.
easily.
We are
Like,
just
how do you find the
at-
documentation of Pog? Like if you can give me a URL to it or like give me a
Let's
link.
know your meme. Come on.
Like give
now.
me a that's true.
Okay,
Okay,
let me
yeah.
ask you a question. Do people look at like Dada's art or the fountain, you know, that urinal that's on display in gosh, I can't remember what museum, but that's not the point. Do people look at that and say they don't understand it? Or do they look at the context surrounding it and say that this is like absurdist or Dada? I think the same thing would happen with memes. Memes are art, is my conclusion.
No, we are just advanced Egyptians.
With the hieroglyphics.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just
Now the
imagine
move,
like
it's insane.
2038, the president of the United States getting inaugurated, and just like on the screen there's like a Twitch chat like pop up, and it's just people just spamming Pog. Like this is what
Right,
historians
no.
will be
It
viewing.
might-
If Bernie Sanders gets a
Dude, that's actually
You know,
true.
that's when what we've been joking about is actually going to happen. We're like someone like Bernie streaming on Twitch, but they're also like actually paying attention to the stream. Like they respond to donations. They've got like chat overlay up on the side.
Live
Amazing.
streaming your presidential inauguration.
I mean,
Okay.
I actually think like Bernie streams
That would
all of
be
his
massive
rallies.
viewers.
Bernie streams all of his rallies, so if he becomes the president, I'm sure his inauguration speech will be live, and that would be really epic.
That's
Did you say
amazing.
2038? 2038.
That's definitely an election year. Don't think about it. Don't do the math. Don't do the math. Don't do the math.
Chill, just chatting stream from the Oval Office.
Yes.
Everyone's like, Bernie, how are you gonna raise the money for free healthcare? And he's like, I got this,
Yeah,
guys.
he's just doing a Q&A. He's just doing a
It's like,
Q&A.
all right,
If I can get
AMA,
$10,
$10.
You know,
If everyone just subs with their Twitch Prime right now.
He's
Everyone.
got
You know you have
subtitles on his
Amazon
stream.
Prime, right?
He's
Yeah.
got subtitles on his stream for bills to pass.
oh man.
If we,
Anyways,
if we get a level 10 hype train going, I will sign this bill.
damn, bro.
It's the future.
Really looking forward to the future of Twitch.
Anyway.
if we get $1,000, I will write Poggy into this bill.
Yeah, and it's like the whole bill, like listing what it entails. So at the very end, it just says Poggy.
Poggy.
Oh shit! When does Bernie get bought out by Mixer?
Mixer?
That's a sad day for
Nah,
Twitch.
He already
I guess
has
they
the
put
money.
it
He
down.
doesn't need to get bought out. He'll
He
buy
gets bought out
Mixer.
by Apple's new platform. Obviously.
Jax. Yeah, he comes into my stream.
I mean, that was the first
Thanks for,
stream I
thanks for
remember.
the host, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, when Bernie like first made a Twitch page and it was like to appeal to millennials or Gen Z or whatever, and it's like people always made memes where it's like Bernie Sanders with a headset on, and, like photoshopped him on like the PUBG bridge, and it was like, "Yo, Bernie, thank you so much for the host."
Yo, Bernie, where are you dropping?
Yeah, that lasted for a while, where like people would just like Photoshop like the picture of like him sitting at a desk
Yeah.
onto other things.
I mean, right now we're just asking for your financial support.
Yeah.
I am once again asking.
Shoutouts to the UK Parliament channel for actually having emotes.
Oh yeah, that's so epic. Oh my god. Twitch is
What
a
a world
crazy
we live in.
place.
I think Luke is subbed to them, but I don't remember.
Oh my god. I need to subscribe to the UK Parliament channel.
So I remember him using. I remember him using the UK Parliament Pog emote before.
Are they like good emotes? I've never even.
They were just like random like frames of like people like in court or like discussing like debating, and they were just like screen capped to be used. Like
UK
one of them was just like
Parliament?
yelling and it was PogChamp.
Where's their order emote? Order! Order!
Oh my gosh, that's.
Oh my god, what the hell? What's going on? What? Oh my gosh. Bernie, are you serious right now? Bernie Sanders, what? You're invited to the Twitch partner program.
Oh my goodness.
All right, this was a good conversation, but I like to stray off a political path, even if it was ever so slightly politically charged, and go over to some speedrunning. Yay!
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
I love speedrunning.
Did you know that the order guy has a
It's
cat?
so nice that it knows
And when he's on the street and he has to call his cat, order, order! Yeah, I know.
everything.
That meme has to die.
Anyways, I wanted to have a quick conversation about speedrun practicing, because you know, the number one thing I feel like, at least in my stream, when people ask like, how do you get so good, and I'm like, well, I have about 2,000 hours in this video game on Steam, so that's probably part of it. You know, practice is a huge part of getting good, as the kids say. And I was curious what everyone's like kind of preferred method of practicing is.
The thing is I've been well aware of the fact that practice methods are like the number one thing that cause you to improve or be good in a speed game, and mine are not perfect, and that's why I always seek out like the methods of others. It's something I've always been really curious about, because honestly mine aren't that good, but I like, you know, I put enough time into it that I can like work it out. But honestly, I have a problem where like, and I would guess that this is, I can tell that this is something a lot of people around me in speedrunning don't have the same problem with, and it holds me back a little bit. But like, I suffer from the fact that I sometimes will just not learn something if I don't feel like it. And like, I definitely have noticed where like, I would not do a strat because it looks hard for months, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of being lazy. I'm just gonna learn the strat. And then there's literally nothing hard about it in the slightest, but it just like looked intimidating, so I didn't do it. That's a big problem. Like, you should always be willing to try stuff. Even though my practice habits aren't perfect, that's something I will say. Is that, like, you should never be willing to not try something because it looks intimidating. Because, like, you know, you're not going to be hurt by just, like, trying to practice it for a few minutes. It'll hurt you if you try and put it in a run without, like, being consistent yet. But if you're practicing, you should always be willing to try anything.
Just try it out and see if it's comfortable or not, and maybe adjust it, time it a bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like, I recently started learning just ARB for Celeste. Like, it's been on my bucket list for a while, and you know, speedruns finally kicked me in the butt and was like, "Hey, you got to do it." And it's just honestly an excuse for me to try all the dumb strats in any percent rooms that like I normally don't do in any percent because I'll mess them up, and like I don't want to fail. But at least for me, I really like to jump around categories a lot. That's something, at least in Hollow Knight, that I was known for a lot. Where I have the same problem, as Brady. If I'm grinding something, I won't stop and practice a new strat. It's just like I have my route, I have my strats. I'm just gonna go until I get a good run. But if I keep jumping around categories, it gives me that little buffer. Be like, oh well, I'm not expected to be good. I can try these strats and fail at them. There's no expectations. So that's definitely something that I like to do. Is just jump around categories that I don't have any expectations in, and then just go for gold. And then so once I go back to the category that I really want to focus on, like any percent, then yeah, I can put them in.
Yeah, there always is that phase where you come back to the category that you're playing, and then that finally gives you the opportunity to relearn everything, because like you're rusty anyway, so you're not going to be getting good runs straight off the bat. So you may as well just like implement the stuff that you've been too lazy to put in, and then you just do no resets and get a bunch of golds till you get good again.
So something that I've noticed just as a viewer, there's a very big difference in how certain people reset compared to others. So, for example, a certain very good ARB runner really likes to reset very often and very aggressively. So it's like, where's the balance there? Is there a correct point for everyone, or is that something that differs from person to person? Should you be expecting perfection for the first few minutes of a run,
I hate
etc.?
bye-bye.
That's my question.
Honestly, I think in terms of speedrunning, the most difficult thing to answer or truly figure out, which I don't think it ever will be, is like what the best way to reset is. Because like you can't even argue that never resetting is better either. Like it's like no resets can definitely help you, but you can't truly say that like resetting is always bad. Like there's definitely a good middle ground if you're wanting to get a PB and wanting to use your time effectively. And like
For sure.
it's such a hard question to answer, which like I said, I think it's legitimately impossible. But so much so to the point where people have like realized it and tried to make like live slip programs that like use these super weird algorithms to like figure out when it is statistically worse to reset or not.
Well,
shout out to the PB chance.
I just look at my
PB chances jank.
and if my BPT is higher than my PB, then I reset, and I just use that as like.
Yeah, that's a good thing to go off of as well. I think best possible time is the best live split metric, and I think that everyone should use it. And like honestly, once best possible time is above PB, that's a pretty good.
Unless it's
Well,
like only slightly above your PB.
It also depends on whether your golds are.
Well, yeah, that's just something that you have to know for yourself. If you know a game well enough, you know like what your true sum of best is. Because like you may have a decent sum of best, and you may know that there's this one split that's really hard that you still have like 2 or 3 seconds to save. Like if you're experienced enough, you'll kind of know like what your limits are.
Yeah.
You'll kind of be able to tell like whether or not a run can PB anymore.
Although,
And like honestly, in like games that I have like high level times in, I more often than not like I honestly pay more attention to my best possible time in any given split than I do to my like pace on PB. Because like oftentimes like like in Celeste 90%, for example, when I played that, like my last PB before I got sub 30, which is like the thing that I spent a long time grinding for, was just like a really good run that had like 2 super terrible splits. So like if I have a run coming out of Ridge that's like +8, I like literally don't care. I'm paying attention to my best possible time instead, and I still see like 28:59 best possible time out of Ridge. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's like And whenever I'm actually on a good pace, it's in like Reflection or Summit. I'm never saying like, oh, I'm -20 to PB. I'll probably be saying like, dude, I'm in Reflection with 29 1x best possible time. That's probably what I'm saying.
Something that I've seen with respect to that is the suggestion of changing your splits so that it tells you how much time you have left towards, like, rather than weighting it so that your splits are based on your PB. It's based on how much leeway you have by comparing your goals against your PB. So like I can lose 20 seconds over the course of the entire run and still PB. that kind
So
of
like
idea.
the green means how much you can afford to lose, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Possible time save metrics.
And I think that might be conducive to having that same
So
mindset.
it's
where
like
look
it's
at
like
your
a
best
it's like a
time.
backwards best segments.
Yes, essentially.
Honestly, like yeah, I kind of agree. Like at least in games where I am, close to high level, I almost never run against my PB. I'm almost always running against either balanced or my SOB because like it doesn't
The only
matter what I
issue
am
with
against
that
my
kind of
PB. So
split set is that you would exit city and then it would say like -30. But I guess that's
Yeah.
alright.
Sometimes it just feels bad to continue even though you're like +10. It's hard to ignore occasionally. And of course, there's also the mindset part. Like, to give an example earlier, like right before this, I was, in a true ending run. I think I was around like half a minute or a minute ahead going into farewell, and I just missed power source skip, and
Ooh.
I just completely. And even though that's recoverable, I had a lot of time save remaining. That was still PBable. I just mentally logged out. Like I couldn't play anymore, even though I only lost like maybe 20 to 30 seconds at best.
I think it's really interesting in speedrunning how like the idea of that using Celeste as an example, if I am playing City and I die and I probably lose like 3 seconds, I will reset. But it's like weird because just in my golds I can save like 5 seconds in Summit. Like there's always a huge imbalance of like the idea of that the standard of play for early game is so much like infinitely higher than late game. It's kind of the idea that it's just like I will have a very definitive like gold split or not gold but goal split coming out of resort, and then by the time I get out of reflection I'm just like I just want to finish this run and get what I need to get to PB. Like I don't, whatever I get is what I get.
I think to a degree,
for sure.
at least for me in early game splits, like I'm pretty harsh on them because it sets up the mindset for the rest of the run. Like if you start off on a bad note, it's so difficult to get momentum.
That is another
good. You can play way better.
That is another justification for early resets that I have thought about. Like, even though sometimes it can seem aggressive, if you suffer from like a tilt mindset, well, not even like a tilt mindset. Let me put this in a way that can show how it like its bad effects without like necessarily being tilt. So like, if like you may have noticed just watching like top level Celeste 80% runners. This is what I think is like the best example for me. Like people that have like 27s were like. You need like really good summits and like you can't afford to get like a bunch of deaths because like summit is like a long enough chapter that's easy to lose like 20 seconds in, and like being able to play like a consistent summit when it's that long and difficult of a level is really hard. So like you can just string together summits that are like clean, deathless, stuff like that. Or what I've noticed at top level is that they'll be going for like a PB, and like I said, this is mainly what I've noticed with people in like low 28s or 27s, where like you'll take like a death or two in 500 meters, and on those summits where they die in 500 meters, I feel like they're like 3 times as likely to just choke the summit and everything falls apart. Like
I've also seen the opposite, where if you choke, you no longer have that pressure to get a perfect summit or what have you, and so sometimes that can result in you playing better.
I mean, I think
that depends on the person, I'd say.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
If you're someone who gets in the zone and is like, once you're feeling it, you just go, then you're like, more power to you. Then aggressive resets early, 100%. But if you're someone who like, I don't like stress, I'm honestly kind of bad under pressure. Like if you get that, like, okay, it's not going to be perfect out of the way early, then you can just kind of like zone out and then you can get in the zone that way. But I mean, it's just like, however you get to that point where you don't think, you just play, like that's it.
Yeah.
And regarding what was said earlier about, expecting close to perfection early versus being more lenient on yourself late, I think that's a relatively healthy mindset to have. In that, it doesn't make sense to be harsh on yourself late game because it's important to finish runs to be able to get a sense of progression. While on the other hand, you do want to still perform, right? So it's not it's not like you can keep that mindset throughout the entire run. Well, I guess it depends on who you are, but
Yeah,
but
again,
there's definitely going to be like you want to the longer the run is, the more of a struggle it is, right? So you want to kind of give yourself a bit of a downhill slope.
you want to finish runs to get through late game, but you also want to have a mindset where you are able to perform.
Guys, just
I-
don't make mistakes.
Yeah,
I
just
can-
don't die.
I can pin. I don't know if this is the same for anyone else or if anyone can relate to what I'm saying, but like I can pinpoint what causes like the snowballing of mistakes to go down, and this has like been very noticeable for my main speed game as well. Hat 80%. Like in the last like large PB grind that I did, like it's not my true PB, but it's my current leaderboard PB because it took me like over a month of constant streaming to get. Like I was at a point where I was trying to get a lower time, and like during that PB grind, I kept like choking runs, but my sum of best just kept getting like lower and lower. And I'm like, okay, it's getting easier and easier to PB because this grind is just like making me play so much cleaner. But somehow I still just can't beat my time, right?
Oh,
And so like I was at a point where I could very easily continue like garbage runs out of the early game segment, which is like the first like 8 minutes, and I could be like plus 10 and just like continue runs like that. And I got to the point where I was so tired of like resetting and grinding that I would just start doing that so I could have more like opportunities to PB because I just wanted to beat my run. And every single time it would just result in a snowball. And it's not even chill either. It's just like whenever I'm a person that I play better the less I think. And that's not just in speedrunning, that's in general. If I had a switch to turn my brain off, I would just be a god at everything I did. I'm gonna be honest. Like
I feel
I
like
don't know about that one.
100%
I
like,
can relate to
because
everything you're saying.
my
right now.
experience before speedrunning is Melee, like which I talked about a little bit in the first episode, but like that's also like a very technical game and fast game, and that might be weird because that's a fighting game where you have to actively like think about what's going on. But honestly, like there have been times where I'm playing Melee and then I zone out and I start thinking about something else, and it's like I'm looking at the screen but I'm not really paying attention to it,
You're
and I'm just
winning.
like, and I'm just like zoned out and like not actively thinking about the fact that I'm playing Melee at all. And then like a couple seconds later, I'll stop thinking and I'll like zone back in. Like I'll stop daydreaming about whatever's going on, and I'll look back at the game, and like I was just like popping off for like the couple of seconds that I was just like basically not paying attention at all. Like those are like my best moments somehow. It's always those. And like
absolutely feel that.
whenever you're speedrunning, right, that state can like be kept in a flow, and like if you make mistakes, it forces you to react to something different than what you're used to, and forces
Yep.
you to like start making change. And of course that's just like, if you like bonk into something or die, that's like a couple seconds where you get back on track and then you're good to go again. But it extends to more than that, because whenever you start to make mistakes, and this is what I've said is my worst problem in speedrunning, and I talk about it all the time, and I don't know how to beat it, but like my worst problem in speedrunning is that I play a run differently based off of my pace. So like if I'm on like a worse pace than usual, I will be incredibly tempted to like do something stupid to try and save that time back for no reason, like go for things that I wouldn't normally do, because I'm upset that I just lost like 2 seconds to something that I shouldn't have, and I'm like, oh, I could just go for this thing and then I'll be fine again. And it's like the worst habit that I have by far, and it kills so many runs. And that's just like an example of how like having a different thought process can just affect your play, because like there's so much like and when you're playing a fast game at high level, there's so much like going into like the movements and stuff that you do that like you have to like do all of these precise things with perfection or close to it. And so like any change in your mindset or any like variation from what you're used to can just like throw things off, even like in the couple of minutes after that one thing happens.
Yeah, you have to readjust and refocus.
Mhm.
There's this guy in the chat, Hello World. Interesting username, if I might say. He says, it's because there's a point where you know a game so well, it's basically instinct or muscle memory, which
Well,
I
yeah,
agree with to a degree.
Speedrunning for the most part is muscle memory, but it depends on the game you play.
I mean,
Yeah.
like even in something like Smash or any other competitive game, it's not just muscle memory. I think there's also like a certain spot where you're in the zone, but because you're not like, if you consciously think about something, it takes longer to process, you know?
Yep.
If you just let your brain do whatever and stop trying to like micromanage yourself, that improves your speed, your reaction time a lot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Instead
Melee
of
is a
thinking,
great
I have
example
to
of
do,
that.
And
ABC. I have to do ABC strategy. You're thinking just do the room.
Yeah,
You're
like
combining
if I
inputs together.
if you have to think about, oh, I have to do a reverse ultra corner boost, and then you think about it, break it down into input, and you try to like comprehend what you're doing, it's not gonna work. But if instead you can just get it down to the point where you don't think about that and be like, all right, reverse hyper, extend it, then go into an ultra, it's just like so much easier and simpler to think about if you just like can generalize the inputs into an action. Because if you have
I
to
think
think
this-
about it all, it's impossible. No one's going to be able to do that because you have to just like span the keyboard. But like if you ever hear him sushi stream, like you can just hear it on the keyboard. It's just insane. Like, if you have to think about all that, bro, impossible.
That
this
actually
is
brings
also
it back-
why nerves are so important.
Yep.
Just another like hard to combat change in your state of mind.
I think this is like, it's still valid even at a lower level. You know, gamers, we know how to use controllers, right? And even that is something that becomes, it's like an
Press A.
extension of your
Press A?
brain. You know, you get used to it to the point where you think something and then you do it. You don't have to like say, okay, I have to press these buttons in order to move or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
something interesting I've thought about when I play games, and like a lot of people have probably also at this point and can relate because we probably all spend a lot of time playing games. But like whenever you think about doing something in a game, you don't think about pushing the buttons. You think about making your character do the thing. Rather, it's like you're legitimately controlling them rather than pushing the buttons to make that thing happen.
I
It
just want to
brings-
say,
Wasn't that a video where Sushi helped?
yeah,
with
that's exactly what I was
play?
gonna say.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube
Yeah, go
video by Daryl Talks Games who does a lot of like. He has a background in psychology, so he looks at like psychology and video gaming. And he did a video about speedrunning, and he
Is
has
that the guy who does Psych of Play?
yes.
Yep.
And he did a video about
That's the one.
speedrunning, and he featured me and Nigrovita, and he just asked like some questions basically about automaticity, I think is the proper term. Don't
Yep.
quote me on
Yeah.
that though.
Yeah,
But-
that was it.
yeah,
I'm gonna quote you on that.
All right, hold on.
I will quote
Yeah.
the video on that.
It was it was very interesting, and it made a lot of sense. If you haven't watched it, I'd recommend talking about it. But it was the idea that like essentially like it's all a lot of muscle memory, and you think more about the actions instead of the proper inputs. I know like a best like similarity is relating it to like driving a car, because realistically if you were teaching a robot how to drive a car, you'd be like, look at the turn and then turn the wheel X degrees. Do you ever think about turning the wheel a certain number of degrees? Like, no, you just turn the wheel based on how much you think you need to turn it. Like, it's just how it
We're
is.
shifting gears.
Yeah.
Like we don't think about like let go of gas, press clutch, change the gear. No, we just say change the gear from like 2 to 3.
Yeah, I mean,
And there's like 5 or 6 actions that are involved with that entire encompassing thing, and we just do it. It like it's one thing
in
combined.
a more general sense, you can think of it as like just like man has evolved to understand how to use a tool as part of their own body.
I mean, to the same degree, that's just a movement of your arms can be considered
Exactly.
that, right? Because there's so many different muscles you have to pull on.
I mean, and
Try
then
to break that down. That's an entire science of its own.
with
Can
that
imagine
regard,
if
you
had
can
to
you
think
can
about everything. That'd be incredible.
Oh,
Like life would just be co-op. Like honestly, that'd be awesome.
pretty much, yes.
We just have like one day at a time where we just all have to move every muscle individually.
Yeah.
That would be a pain.
Honestly,
think
everyone would
about
just
it-
die. If I had to think about breathing every time I had to
walking.
breathe.
Yeah.
Also, like if you have to think every time you have to blink, haha, y'all suck now.
Oh my
Have fun with that
god.
one.
All right, Pest
Also,
is
your
out of
tongue is
here.
now. All right, your
Dude,
tongue is
what?
no longer comfortable in your own mouth.
Dude,
going for all of it.
if
You
we
lost
got
the
if we
game,
got
too.
rid of
It's
muscle
over.
memory, that would actually be kind of insane. We should try that. Like for a day, I would be down.
It'd just
Isn't
be
that
so
what
fun.
babies are?
What?
Oh God.
What?
Babies are people who don't have muscle memory.
Yeah, that's
I
why it
kind of
takes
agree.
8 months.
That's actually
That's why-
true. We would
That's
just
why
be
it takes a year to learn how to walk.
Yeah.
It's just a hassle.
All right, I think this is the perfect note to end this conversation on because I wanted to talk about a little bit back on trail of Celeste. I want to talk about it because we're obviously all Celeste enthusiasts. So I want to talk
Sheriff, you
about.
don't walk.
I'm appreciative
God.
that you tried to be inclusive of me with that.
I wanted to talk about our favorite chapters in Celeste. It's a big game. With the
Ooh.
inclusion of Farewell, there are 25 chapters?
Yep.
Yeah. So I want to start. The Mirror Temple A side is my favorite chapter. I love it so much. In between the entire story, the idea of like fears being projected, you have the whole darkness being a huge factor. The Seekers are a really interesting enemy to deal with. And just generally also in terms of the speedrun, I'm always kind of sad that 5A got taken out of the route because it's really one of the sickest A-side speedruns. Like the entire Theo A section, the rescue checkpoint is better than probably any other checkpoint in the game, like for sure. It's
Dude,
one of
every time I say 5A is super cool and sick, all the ARB runners yell at me like, "No, this chapter sucks. There's nothing good about it. Like, why do you like this?"
See, I just haven't played ARB enough to get to that point because it's crazy hard, but it's so much fun. I used to be just like a degen any percent runner, and I was like 5A, that has Theo movement. I'm not a fan of that. I'm just gonna do 5B instead. And then I was like forced to pick it up a little bit for ARB, and I actually like practice it instead of just running through it, basically first timing it every week. And it's crazy fun. Like honestly, I'm probably gonna say 5A is my favorite too.
I have
It's
a
just
question.
so insanely fun.
Do you all like 5A simply because you hate 5B?
no.
Or
Honestly,
Well, sort of. I mean, I hate 5B less now that I'm doing NG plus because it's much better in NG plus. But
5A Theo is one of the single nuttiest checkpoints in the entire game.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that's,
totally agree.
that's
Even if
fact.
you're not
Unraveling is
perfectly
cool.
good at it, it's
Unraveling
insane.
is cool, and for some reason, no one will agree with me. Everyone says Unraveling sucks, but it's cool.
I like unraveling. Why do
Hmm?
people not like it?
It is cool.
Which one is
Uh,
Unraveling? Is that the one right after the mirror?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that one's pretty cool.
that's the secret tutorial, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It can be super just like
And
it flows well. I
The
don't know how else to
manipulation
say
is
it.
really cool.
Yeah, like if you play it well, it looks insane and it feels. I imagine it feels good. I'm not good at it, so I don't know.
I mean, as for and like search is cool too. Like I guess in terms of a play standpoint, search like has nothing to it, but like you
But
know,
if we skip it.
yeah,
Any-
there
any
is still
percentage
interesting
is
stuff
cool.
that goes on behind it. Like cool chapter. I don't think I really need to answer what my favorite chapter in the game is because like there's only one chapter that's even close to being in contention. So, I mean, just think about how much content there is compared to everything else in the game. It's not even a fair fight.
it's 1C, isn't it?
It's honestly 5A
Yeah,
and 6B
1C.
changed my mind.
I just want to
Oh.
say, actually, like, my second favorite chapter, the only reason I put 5A on top is because of the story elements, but my second favorite chapter is actually 7C. And that's because, one, I actually think the wallbound screen, the first screen, is super fun. And also the last screen.
Why?
It helps
Why?
a lot with
I
getting
think
used
it's
to wall
fun.
bounces. For
I
sure.
literally think it's fun because it's kind of simple, but you're just like, wee, wall bounce.
I'm gonna disagree
French
and say
for a little
that
bit there, I like
7C is probably the one of if not the worst chapter in Celeste. And the reason for that is like the biggest element of level design that you see throughout the game is that you always have I guess not really choice, but you have some freedom in how to do it, even if it's very challenging. Whereas with 7C, it's just like, you are only allowed to make these inputs and you have to make these inputs at the right time. And it's not really as interesting. is how I see it.
Well,
I mean, you do have freedom in 7C. It's just
Yeah,
pixel
the fr-
I
setup was
actually-
pixel perfect.
I do want to say my favorite part about 7C. Well, of course, like that last screen. It's probably still the hardest screen in the game in terms of like non-speedrun strats. I actually don't. Probably a screen in Farewell might be like quote unquote harder.
Last screen farewell.
Last
maybe.
screen Farewell,
Yeah,
sure.
maybe.
What
But,
about Comber?
No, I think
I
I think
just-
the last screen in 7C is much harder than the last screen in Farewell.
But like in my opinion, this
What?
is
No way.
Maybe we don't disagree because we have had so much time with 7C already.
Mm,
You can see it.
but my favorite thing, and this is why I got so pissed when they included Farewell, the whole story for Granny. I love like the kind of mic drop moment where after you get to the end of this super long
Yeah.
screen, and you
She's
just
there.
Granny's there, and she just says like, "Crazy how we get addicted to the climb," and like that's it. Like that's I love that moment so much because like you're so relieved and like it's the last thing you expect, but it's kind of fitting in terms of like Granny being like symbolism for like the mountain. But then they make a whole fucking chapter about her being dead, so it's kind of not that good anymore, gonna be honest.
Spoilers! Wow. What if someone in chat hasn't finished chapter 9 yet?
How
No,
long has
she's-
Farewell been out?
Dude,
Like,
she's not dead. If you've never played Farewell, the whole point is to try and save her. You bring her back.
yeah,
God.
obviously.
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
The bird is Granny.
Okay,
That's not
I'll
the-
have
there-
to say, Farewell last screen took me 2 hours, and that's longer than it took me to beat 7C for the first time. And one of them I had much
fair, yeah.
practice and speedrun knowledge, and the other one was literally casual playthrough. So there's no way 7C took me longer.
To be fair, the last screen of Farewell, you're basically using a jelly for the majority of it, and you're using a jelly for the majority of it, which is a new mechanic.
It's
Also,
it's also long.
the 7C has a bino at the start of the room. You can see the entire thing. The last screen of 9A like has a bino, but it's so scuffed because you can't see any of the up part of the level. So, I mean, I do agree. Like, it's probably a coin toss to me, and obviously I just hate the last screen of 9A, so I'm probably gonna go with that being harder too. But like, I think they're comparable.
Also, if I have to pull out this trump card, I will say that if you get the Moonberry, if you go back, that extra
Oh, yeah.
movement makes it even harder.
God,
Yeah,
that
that's-
sucks.
The climbing Moonberry movement is so bad. Like to get not the screen itself, because it's not in the
To
same
get
screen,
to
but like
check-
actually getting up there, it's so bad.
Yeah.
But looking at different levels from a casual perspective, I think 6A battle line fight was really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Battle and
this-
fight. The battle and fight is the best. I wouldn't say
That's-
Reflection is the best chapter, but the battle and fight is the best
fight is
section
like
of the
such
entire
a good
game.
checkpoint.
The fight is really good, yeah.
So it is sad that Hollows has to go before it, but it is how it is.
You know, they gotta give you the bad stuff, and then it's just
And other than that, what I thought about speedrun wise, I was looking at 4A just because of it seems such a simple chapter, but there's so much going on, especially with the wind being involved. And
It's
all
a
the
really
other-
popular IL.
yeah.
Like
really fun.
For me, like both casually and in the any percent run, Summon is my favorite chapter just because having the double dash just feels so powerful and
Hence NG
all
plus.
the different ways you can use it. And yeah, in NG Plus though, I think NG Plus Ridge might overtake Summit as my favorite chapter once they start running it, because it's by far the chapter that saves the most time in NG Plus because of all the skips, and some of the strats are just really fun to pull off.
Yeah. Summit actually brings me to a music choice. Reach for the Summit always gets my
Best
heart
song in
going.
the game.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
I'm always hyped after that.
Oh yeah.
Like even Beyond the Heart and Farewell don't surpass Beyond Reach for the Summit.
I don't. When I did Celeste 80% runs, I play with music off and I listen to my own music because Summit makes me nervous.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
But the music in Celeste is so good. You should
Yeah.
talk about that.
I will drop my undisputable argument for why Farewell is the best chapter to say is that my favorite checkpoint of Farewell is like just as long as all of the levels that you guys are arguing for, which is
Is it
reconciliation.
Reconciliation. Yeah.
Yes.
I knew it.
Like
really
reconciliation
good.
is literally as long as all the levels that we're like talking about.
Not
And,
Summit.
well, I guess it doesn't carry as much story just because it's one element to the overarching story of Farewell. Like it's so much fun, and like it's like it has just as much, well, not just as much content, but it's like it's just as long as many of the chapters in the game, and that's like 1 out of 9 checkpoints.
For
No,
someone
yeah,
who
for
said
sure.
nothing about Farewell.
Great.
Which checkpoint is reconciliation?
It's the second to last.
So-
Which theme is that?
It's
Again,
the farewell. It's the last.
It's right after like the
It's the
rhythm
one where
section.
you. It's the one where you work with the bird.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah,
Yes.
no, that one's awesome. Never mind. Gotcha.
I-
that one's awesome.
That's
I
a really
def-
good
like-
checkpoint.
Yeah, I think it's a good checkpoint. I'm just so biased in the sense that I remember when I first played Farewell, when it came out 9/9, and all the like Oddbod was streaming for like 14 hours that day or something dumb, doing like day 1 speedruns, and everyone was in a VC. And I like had school and I had like cross country practice, and I didn't get home till like 5, where I just played Farewell through. And I remember because I unironically thought the fake heart was like the end of the chapter. So from there on, I was just like, it can't be that much more, right? Right?
And
So, like,
it just keeps on going.
Re-
To be
Recon-
fair, I thought it was like halfway when I
Honestly,
saw the
that heart is really smart because looking back on the heart after you know the whole chapter's length, it makes sense for like the story. But what the heart really serves as in a casual playthrough is kind of a slap in the face about how long the chapter really is.
Yeah.
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 And also,
the
like-
heart is like a third of the way to the chapter, not even
If
halfway.
that.
I,
Yeah.
It's 3 checkpoints out of what 9?
9
Yeah.
something, yeah.
Like
It's-
the termination, the start of the termination is about the halfway point of the chapter.
Yeah, about.
For me, it was also like stubbornness is obviously it has like the cassette/heart room blocks, and I'm like, oh, normally when you're on a B-side level and you see these blocks, it's
That's
the
the
end.
end.
And then I'm like, oh, it's a couple of screens long. That's because it's such a long chapter. And then it didn't end.
So
So
what it does really well though is making you want to finish it, right? Because
Yeah.
you're thinking we're almost there. It's time to free the bird, if you will.
And then it brings you into the relieving checkpoint where you have freedom to go fast.
Yes, that's
Yep.
something amazing about Recon is that, you know, you have all of this terrible hard shit that like you're experiencing for the
In
Fine.
terms of gameplay and in Madeline's mindset, that checkpoint is relief.
Yeah, it's so
100%.
it's so well done the way it's especially with the
pretty
music.
good.
I love
Not
the
in-
music.
not in
I
the
would talk.
speedrun,
I
not
could
in the
talk
speedrun,
about
because in the
music so
speedrun it has like the highest skill ceiling for strats throughout the checkpoint.
Yeah, I checked that.
Recon has the highest skill ceiling?
Well, it's
Recon
up
is
there. It's up there.
insanely hard if you want to do it fast.
What about Remembered?
Remembered is the hardest checkpoint. I will say that. I think that Recon is the second hardest though.
Remember, it
Yeah,
has
I would
some
agree.
really awful rooms, yeah.
I would agree.
I want to say one thing about like the music of this game is that even if like there are a lot of tracks that are like definitively like I feel like 4B, 5B, Summit, and now like some Farewell tracks are usually known as like the best songs in the game. But one thing I think you can say about almost every song in the game is it's very atmospheric. It's always very fitting to the environment it's put in. And
It
actually,
slaps.
one of my favorite things in conjunction with the game, well, one obviously is Reach for the Summit when you enter the summit for the first time and it's going crazy and you feel so hyped to retake on the mountain. But also the 2A Badline Chase theme, and also just going into a wake, like when the piano starts playing, that it's such a good like casual feeling. Like damn, this really was just a dream. Like it totally puts it in perspective so well.
Yeah,
it-
like
it
you were talking
conveys
about
the
4B
mood.
and 5B, and I was like, come on, where's the love for 2A? I was gonna throw that.
Yeah, everyone talks.
2A is so good.
Yeah.
Dude, Atmade, Star Jump is a banger.
Star Jump is great. Madeline and Theo into Star Jump. It's just a beautiful transition. So incredibly well done.
Yeah,
Um,
the music is really good at conveying the mood.
I also want
Yeah.
to point out at the
So
beginning
good.
of Reach for the Summit, you have the same theme that you have in the prologue. So when you get on the bridge in the prologue, it's exactly the same thing that
Really?
you hear at the beginning of Reach for the Summit. And I
Wait,
think
that's
that's
not-
Yeah,
incredible.
almost
And then
the
it
exact same
transitions
thing. The last
into the
note
actual
in the
summit.
prologue bridge is different, but that's it.
Yeah, the last one. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wait, I'm actually not aware of this.
I had never noticed that.
No.
I didn't, but now that you mentioned it, it played off in my head. I'm like, hey, that is indeed
'Cause, like,
very
no,
familiar.
yeah, because when you do it the first time, it's a little moment of panic because you get on the bridge and then it starts crumbling down behind you. That's what it serves as in the prologue, like the little theme. But it's also like the intro to the summit. Because we know that like the summit shares like the same theme throughout every single checkpoint, but before that actually starts in 0 meter, when you got like the intro where you're flying up, it has that one little tune that's like unique to
Yeah.
that part.
It
And
has
then it
that
comes
tone
in-
on every checkpoint. If you just start from like, say you go through to the file select, you start at 1K, you still get that theme.
Yeah, you still get
Yeah,
that intro.
Yeah.
And
It
then
sounds a
comes
little
in with
odd. It sounds a
the
little odd when that intro goes into
When it
like, a
transitions.
completely different instrument palette, like in
Yeah,
like 1000 or something. But
2500.
yeah, 2500 especially.
Bottom line, just get the entire OST, honestly.
I mean, even if you don't get the OST, you know, at least get the best one, wave-dash.ppt. Come on, guys. You know, it's true.
Really
I
love
love
to see it.
Balsa.
It's easy.
Yeah, I think one thing I want to talk about as we're nearing the end of our episode here, I want to talk about something that we're all underqualified to talk about, which is Zelda arbitrary code execution.
Going to the bathroom. I'll be right
Oh
back.
boy. Oh,
I'm
and
gonna
Brady's
join you in the
gone.
bathroom, Brady.
Oh my god.
I'm also
Everybody's
Majora's
like,
Mask.
stream's over, guys.
Majora's Mask too, by the way. They also
Anyways,
found Ace.
for those who know, I'm gonna try to give background to the best of my ability. Legend of Zelda, of course. Legend of Zelda games have been kind of a staple for speedrunning, as most Nintendo games are. They're kind of always speedrun, and one of the most prestigious Zelda games to run was, or still is, Ocarina of Time. And I don't know about you guys, but like my opinion, that game has been incredibly broken. Even back when the 90% time was like around 17 minutes, that run was incredibly broken. You would wrong warp from the first dungeon to the end of like the last dungeon, basically. It was some really crazy
The
stuff.
tower collapse. Yeah.
Yep. And now they have found a way to execute arbitrary code within the game without like a Game Shark or cheating. So basically you're able to do a credits warp from the first area of the game to the credits after collecting a couple of stuff. And I don't know if you guys use r/speedrun, but it's really crazy now because I can't use the subreddit anymore without seeing a top upvoted Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time any percent world record.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like,
Why would you go to the subreddit in the first place?
I like to stay up to date. I like to see some stuff. I like to see some bad
Let's
opinions.
browse.
But yeah, I did see like a 50-minute video on explaining how the routes have changed in Ocarina of Time any percent, where first they would actually beat all 8 dungeons, then skipping 2, then skipping the entire adult timeline, and then finding the Ganondorf wrong warp. It's actually insane how some of these things line up. Although, you know, going back to Ace, there seems to be controversy with it since you need a controller in the 3rd slot at a specific angle.
Yeah,
and
I
now
think
you don't anymore.
Yeah,
It's
there was like an older method where you need to have a secondary controller plugged in, and it needed to press
plugged in
down
for-
some buttons and have a really precise angle on the joystick. So if you go on like speedrun Twitter, there's a ton of pictures of people having it like 3 rubber bands on their N64 controller, and it's the most whack thing. And it
and
kind
it
of
needs to be player 3
yeah
for some reason. It's like really weird.
And it was interesting
But,
because it's also like brought a ton of controversy about like what is considered a tool in speedrunning. And because to me, I've like seen glimpses of a lot of these speedruns, and some of them are claiming like this run isn't legitimate, or this run isn't legitimate, or this run doesn't follow the rules. And also, we're voting to change the rules. And like, oh my god.
And when does time start, and what defines? Because a lot of these like setups, since you need a very specific file name, they used to need the control in the slot. Does that count as starting the run with the timer, or is that setup? Like, how can you define which of the two, if it's part of the run or not?
But anyways,
Well,
as the runners here with the moral high ground, us Celeste runners, you know, we run
Obvious.
a very
Come on.
good
We
speedrun.
are pure IGT runners only.
Yes.
Gonna
And I was curious
go to
what we
the bathroom
thought.
in between the chapters.
Gonna
about it,
quickly
it's
eat some breakfast, eat some dinner, go to the mall, get my hair cut in between chapters. No, but I wanted to talk about like what makes a speedrun fun and like how much like speedrun popularity works. Because at least in my opinion, like this Zelda Ace run does not look fun. It's 9 minutes, and it's almost incomprehensible from the original video game. I feel like it doesn't have like Zelda elements to it. Of course, like that's me to be like a very purist. Obviously, like your casual playthrough of Celeste doesn't look a lot like the speedrun. But I think it's really interesting of like the idea that like in my opinion, if this run was on a Zelda run, everyone would trash it and be like, who cares?
Well,
this run's
there's
awful.
the Super Mario World credits for it, right? And
Yeah.
no one, I don't think I've ever seen anyone like lodge a serious complaint about that. But I think the important thing about that is that it's a separate category, you know? And I think another important thing about that is that you're kind of in it for the technical aspects of it. So when you talk about what makes a speedrun fun, maybe that's not fun in terms of, you know, you're not really playing the game, but it's fun to be able to see just how completely you can break the game.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting. Do you think we'll ever
But-
see a Zelda Ace run at like a GDQ, at a marathon of some sort?
Yes.
Probably
They could be-
glitch exhibition.
Honestly, wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if it happens. Just
In
because of
SGDQ?
how like, insanely popular and how much traction it's gotten recently. Like, it's a buzzword right now. I mean, it's just like
Yeah.
The
I
thing
wouldn't
think
be
is
surprised.
about being fun. It's like, is it fun to do the run or to discover the tech? Like, because I could see with Ace trying to discover all that would be a lot of fun, trying to break the game apart. But actually doing these runs, where the first 2 minutes and 55 seconds is the opening cutscene, I don't know.
So
That
I don't
seems kinda
I don't
boring.
think that is really an issue. It's just an issue of the game having a long ass open cutscene, right?
Like it's like 40% of your run is just looking at the screen, waiting. I don't know. Seems kind of. There's obviously that disconnect between discovery and performance.
Another
True.
thing that can make a game fun to run, even if it's not like an inherently fun game to grind out, is that like when you're early on, obviously you're not going to start out with a really good time before it starts becoming like difficult to beat. Once you have a time that asks more effort or becomes more unfun to beat, then a game that you don't run long term can become less fun to play. Just because like the easy improvement, like you can just do one run, you know, not have a stroke and save like 20 seconds in a split, and like because of this point,
That
I bring up, do you think people will still be grinding this in a few months the
No.
way that they are now, apart from like a few people? Because I really
Unless-
don't think that they will be.
no.
unless something new gets found, absolutely not.
Because like honestly, one of the reasons that it's so popular, just how has so much traction, is that even if it's not an inherently fun like route or run, it's just a game that has so much history behind its like any percent progression that of course people are gonna play it and watch it.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like
You
now
know,
that
it's
history is
got, it's
just
got
like,
it's
it's
huge with
getting beaten by
spectators.
30 minutes or whatever. I don't know what the
It's
old one
huge
was.
with
but-
spectators, but it's not like spectators are constantly wowed by like watching the run. I guarantee you, anyone who's watching, literally the only thing that they care about is watching the final split be a lower time than it was before. That's literally the
Yeah.
only like upside to being a
Mhm.
spectator for something like that.
Yeah, like it's even though it's probably extremely difficult to get all those tricks, it doesn't. I've watched the run and it doesn't look impressive. Like you're mostly just trying to aim at like a pixel perfect angle and stand in a pixel perfect spot a few times in the run, and then it just ends.
I mean, yeah.
And then you're in the credits. Yeah.
I think routing in Ocarina of Time has been crazy. I mean, arbitrary code execution is a whole nother demon, but like 100%, like the Zelda 100% speedruns, of course, ZFG is probably the most popular like pure speedrun personality live streamer, and obviously he does Zelda 100 Ocarina of Time 100%, and I feel like you could literally like you could earn a bachelor's in Ocarina of Time 100% routing. Like you could go to college to study that, because it's crazy when you look into it how much intricacies that category has, which I think it is really entertaining to see that route work. But obviously we're at the point where it's like, has science gone too far? It's a little scary.
That feels like a similar thing as Mario 64 120 star or 0 star, right? Like the similar like vibe you get, the reason why people want to watch Like after a while, 0 stars just try to do BLGA and that's it. While 120 stars just way more entertaining.
Now, I want to ask this question because, of course, we are all Celeste runners. Celeste is kind of a very glitchless game. There's like one quote-unquote glitch. Hold on. There's one quote-unquote like glitch, which is that like your Y position gets saved through cutscenes. That's like probably one of the only weird interactions we've had. And then we had the whole menu storage fiasco, which was patched out. Of course.
Fiasco?
Menu storage affair. What word do you want to use?
I don't even think cutscene warping. I wouldn't even call that a glitch. I think but just by how I define a glitch, I think the only glitch that we use in the entire Celeste speedrun is demo button. Not demo dash, but demo button. And that's the only thing I call a glitch.
How is that a glitch?
Because you are it's a quirk of input priority that allows it to happen. And input priority isn't really a mechanic. It's just
But input priority is intended, right?
No,
Oh boy,
like
here we
they
go.
they aren't designing
Yeah, no,
around
man,
the
let's go.
possibility of using multiple input methods at the same time.
I actually agree. I see what you mean,
Like-
because the way that like the input priority sets it up to work, like it gives some effects of the down input, but not all.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Like the direction of your dash gets overridden, but you still keep the down property.
And like honestly, at this point, I think this leads pretty well into another topic because yeah, that might be a glitch, but I don't care because it makes the game more fun to play.
Yeah,
This is my stance on a lot of things with like no major glitches, at least from Hollow Knight, or like all glitches. I don't care. Use whatever glitches you want. If it makes it more fun, I want to be able to use it.
Yeah, and
Like,
kind of my
as long as
stance
it's
on
not
like
Terrible.
glitchless versus glitched categories and how fun they are to run and how fun they are to watch. I kind of see it as two different kinds of mastery when you're a speedrun, either speedrunning through mastery of the game or speedrunning through mastery of the speedrun. Like watching a Celeste speedrun looks like someone who is really good at Celeste. Watching a speedrun that's full of glitches doesn't really look like a person's good at the game, but more specifically just good at what's in the speedrun. Like runs that are full of wall clips and things like that. Like they're not something that you would ever think of doing if you were trying to get good at the game itself.
Are we talking about Hat in Time now?
No, Hat isn't really that way. Hat is jank as all hell, but it's not that way. Like there is a vast difference in those skill sets that I've like realized and come to admire about like speedruns where you have to be good at the speedrun, and then speedruns where you have to be good at the game. And that's another thing that I was talking about earlier about like some speedruns that like you can't just play off of muscle memory, because like I don't know if I brought it up last time, but like take a game like Fury for example. Like learning a game like that is really hard because the entire speedrun is just a bunch of boss fights like back to back. It's just a boss rush, and like in that game you can't watch a top level runner's PB and copy their inputs. You can't even like look at what they do and copy it because there's probably a bunch of like interactions and quirks with AI that you can't tell. Like you literally just have to like figure it out on your own.
Yeah,
Like-
and like it's kind of situations like that where like
You just have to know the
run,
game like the back of your
for
hand.
me, a run that's fun to watch is a run where it looks like the person's really good at the game itself.
Mhm.
And a Fury
Games that
speedrun,
have
for
high skill
example,
ceilings.
is really fun to watch because it looks like the person's playing Fury just at a really high level. It doesn't look like they're doing things that are specific to the speedrun.
Mhm.
And like same goes for Celeste,
Except for Demo Dash.
except for Demo Dash, basically. Yeah, that's like the one thing that you would never expect to see like someone who's just really good at Celeste to do. Like even like corner boosts and hypers and things just look like they're part of the game.
And Bub's drop,
Yeah,
Even
that makes
Bub's drop.
that makes sense,
Bub's
Squeal.
like death warps.
Lakes.
I would say Bub's drop is a thing that a person just kind of playing the game could find.
Well, that's what.
I-
Bubs did,
That's
yeah.
what I did. Yeah.
That's what happened. But
I mean, yeah, you could casually find it, but I don't think
I guess the
it shows
definition-
itself as being just being good at the game. It's like being good at a skill that's used for the speed run.
And like on that note, the reason I bring up Fury in particular is because like, an interesting about the speedrun in that game is that like it has an incredibly high skill ceiling, right? But like in a game like that, what you're trying to improve at to get better and better times and being better at the run is the same skill set that the game actually teaches to you. Like you're not like going to a speedrun and learning anything new that breaks the game. Like you're getting better and better at what the game actually teaches to you throughout the game and just like pushing that beyond. Like there was a Fury run at SGDQ 19 by the record holder for that game, which is like the person who like puts by far the most time into that community and its discoveries. And like we did one commentary practice run just the day before, so we kind of knew what we were doing. And after it was over, he asked me if he wanted me to like get mentored on anything, like any of the bosses, because I had actually been like learning the game at that time. And like I picked one annoying boss in particular and asked if he could like run me through each of the phases of this fight. And my time was literally 1 minute faster on that boss fight than it was before I walked into that room. It's so stupid.
Wow.
Just because like you have the information from the person on all these AI quirks, like
I have
someone
that
that
with
just
Cuphead.
has put in enough time to like know everything in the game. And literally just like having that information in your mind and being able to react to it is like how you play better. It's like you
Yeah.
have to, it's not like a thing where you can use muscle memory to carry you through. You have to use your brain constantly and you have to react to things constantly. And that just makes it so hard. And it makes things like reacting to mistakes and reacting to nerves also really hard. So
Yeah.
that's,
And,
that's why
but-
that's why I have respect for games and segments in games that you can't use muscle memory on. Like in Hat 80%, I think one of the highest skill ceiling segments in the entire run, and by far the thing that most people lose the most time to compared to like a clean segment, is the mustache girl boss fight. Even though we trash it super hard for having a ton of RNG, it's actually like legitimately really difficult, and it's easy to just like lose a bunch of time and blame it on bad RNG. When in reality, you can get bad RNG and react to that bad RNG 20 seconds faster than someone else can.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that same stuff shows up in just like so many games. Basically, anything with a boss fight that isn't static is just some way that you can show your mastery of the game, and it's just
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
just cool like that.
And it's like a similar manner to something like in Hollow Knight, all the different Godmaster challenges. Like when you watch someone play through those, even if they are using like speedrun tactics and things like that to beat at like a top level, it looks like they're just really good at the game. And that's the kind of thing that you could play to even get good at speedrunning. Something like Hollow Knight, just like
Yeah.
mastering the battle controls.
I
Yeah,
love
like-
watching and respect games like those super hard.
Yeah, like honestly, just like that. Like Conra was honestly just like a casual that I met playing Hollow Knight Rando, that I kind of just like coerced into doing speedruns. And yeah, she was just like, I met her and she was doing insane stuff in just like the Pantheons and the Hall of Gods, just like ILing bosses and doing crazy stuff that like she was just really casually good at the game, and she got insanely good like super quickly. So I mean, it's just like stuff like that where it's just like the speedrun is how good at the game are you.
Yeah, and
It's really cool for people to watch. That's why a lot of people like, and why No Major Glitches is the most popular thing on Hollow Knight. So
And Phil mentioned like AI quirks. You were still talking about Fury when you were talking about that, right? Or were you talking about something else?
Mm-hmm. did.
So like that's something that that a person would even like apply in Hollow Knight when they're casually doing like Pantheon of Hallowness or Radiant boss fights. Like you learn by the time you beat stuff like that, you learn exactly how the boss AI works and what causes them to use certain moves.
Any secret AI?
God, the AI in Hollow Knight is just a disgusting tangled mess of FSMs, and it's just such a meme in the community. But it's incredible how much RNG they put into that game. It's honestly amazing. If you ever want to laugh, just look in the Hollow Knight Discord and ask someone about the FSM for bosses, and oh my god, it
What's
is
FSM?
a hot mess. The what?
What's FSM?
Finite state machine. It's how the bosses decide
Okay,
what
yeah.
to do,
That
how
is
they
a big
react
word.
to the
Mhm.
to the player,
I see.
and it
Giant
is
flowchart, right?
disgusting.
Yeah. The whole Fury thing made me think about Cuphead, but that's just the same story pretty much.
Oh yeah, Cuphead as well.
Cuphead's AI is a little more linear than Fury's
It's-
and
Uh-huh,
Hollow Knight,
'cause
so-
it's
Cuphead's
like-
AI is like there are some phases where they can pick between usually one of three patterns, but most of the other phases are pretty set in stone. With how
Yeah,
they-
and like the best boss fights are the ones where they don't just do an attack one at a time and you learn the correct way to dodge it. The best ones are the ones where they can overlap attacks in such ways that you have to account for what could happen next.
Yeah, like different attack patterns that have different punishes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because like
Like,
Cuphead,
is different in
Cuphead
that-
for
in
the
that
for the
regard.
most part, you're just like consistently doing damage to them, and the attacks are there for you to dodge them while you are consistently dealing
Right,
damage. to
Cuphead
them.
is mainly like a bullet hell type
Yeah,
boss fights.
I
but it
thought
does
about
share
it. The
some
attacks are like
same elements.
mostly the same every time, at least where the patterns go. There's only a few exceptions.
I wish more of the boss fights in Hat like shared this quality that like Free Boss or like even Mustache Girl does, where like the fight is actually based off of like reacting to their moves, and that it gives it like an extra skill set in that way. But like Hat in Time is like completely ruined in the speedrun by its boss fights. They're all terrible, and like it's the place where you're gonna lose the most time in all your runs to, just because RNG. But like most of the boss fights throughout the game are not the same at all in that way. You just like, because like the second worst boss, like take for example, well at least in any percent, not in general, but like the Mafia boss fight, which is like the first boss fight in the game, like not in the route that we do, but like the first boss fight in the game, he just like he has a bunch of phases, and just like he takes a certain amount of hits in each of those phases, and he can only take damage on certain attacks. So like he has one attack that he can do a certain amount of times that you just can't hit him, and so you just like lose time because he decided to do it. And so like attack patterns mean nothing because it's just like you just hit him and you know when to hit him, and like that's literally all there is to it. He just does this attack, you jump and dive, and then he does the next attack, jump and dive. He does the wrong attack, then you just sit there and wait. That's literally all there is to it. And then the end of the fight, you just like do the quick kill. But it's so lame, and like a bunch of the boss fights in Hat are that way. And I wish there was like more interesting qualities to them. Like, sure, fine, RNG in speed games is like not inherently bad. Like, it can make them more interesting, but like, there some of the fights like that are just like so lame and just so linear and boring.
A big thing with that, I think, is that it's not just that like the biggest thing is blocking off your player from doing something that you don't want them to do, rather than encouraging them to do what you want them to do, right? Where if you just say you're not allowed to attack here, or you're not allowed to do this specific thing here, rather than making it intuitive, that wouldn't work, for example, then you're just making the game less enjoyable, period.
Yeah. So just to interject, I was looking and I found a picture of the THK FSM that I just posted in the Twitch chat, and just
Oh, what,
just
what
look at
the
that.
what
It
is
is that is the that's the final boss is AI.
You're kidding.
No.
Ha-
That's impressive.
Where does it start?
Where does it start?
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. Honestly, looking at this, I have no idea.
I was gonna say it starts on the left, but that's not true. Oh, here it starts at the top left. It says
What does it?
I see it. Yeah, I see start.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. This is Hollow Knight. I love this game, by the way.
This is like one of the things on the back of a cereal box where it's like, which arrow points where?
So this is deciding between attacks, right? How many attacks even like feed into this? Like how many attacks do you even have that feed into this chart?
He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, in the first phase, 6 in the second, and I think 7-ish in the third. And then he has a bunch of staggers that all can happen during any attack.
Dang.
So, like, 'cause you can also stagger between attacks.
Yeah. And he can get staggered during attacks, and that can break the FSM. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I think that is a perfect place to end off the second episode. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Again, everyone in chat, make sure this VOD is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. You can type !CC YouTube, and make sure to follow our Twitter, CC Twitter. And all the social medias has been on stream. You can follow everyone on Twitter except Pest, and you can follow everyone on Twitch. And yeah, we should be back here next weekend. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
TLDR, put best possible time in your life split if you don't have it already.
Yes.
I agree.
TLDR, Chapter 9 is the best chapter, and Lena Rain is great at music.
Yep.
Okay, who should we raid?
TLDR, Ace is weird.
Should we raid Bernie?
No.
Yes.
No.
Let's see.
Bernie Sanders only has 198 viewers right now.
Speedrunners is running Celeste. There's a speedrunner who's learning Celeste right now that I've been watching lately named Brooklyn. He's doing 3A right now.
Brooklyn 95.
Yeah.
Could also read Lori.
Nice stream.
Raid Lori and complain about her not being on.
All right. Thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for watching.
Shout out to Oddbod. Cancel fucking student debt.
Can everyone just
Or-
put a rage emoji
Or Peter.
for the raid?
How come?
Because we're raiding Lori and she dropped doing the podcast, which gave Pest a spot. But yeah, rage emoji is gonna be our raid message. Thank you everyone for stopping by, and if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. We're out. Peace.